Most entrepreneurs try to delegate something, but before you know it, it's back in your desk, and so you end up thinking, I'm the only person who can do anything in this business. But after fixing this exact problem for dozens of 6, 7 and 8-figure business owners across completely different industries, I've built the delegation system that works in any business and makes your team completely independent. So in this video, I'm going to show you that system and how to use it so you can stop working in the business or worrying about stupid decisions and start focusing on what actually scales your business. Alright, so to understand this system, you need to know why delegation fails for 99% of businesses, otherwise this is not going to work for you. And the best way to explain this is, I want you to imagine you're teaching math to a kid, right? Your job is to teach them how to do basic arithmetic. Now, that doesn't sound that hard, right? But the thing you're going to quickly realize is that there's two ways in which you can help them and actually teach them the math. The first is you can make everything super clear, as in what they have to do, how they have to do it, things to avoid, and what you'll find is they pick it up pretty fast and soon they're able to do it themselves and you don't have to worry about teaching them anymore. The second way is you can just tell them multiply 5 by 5 and leave them be. They're going to look at you like a golden retriever who you've just asked to be a guard dog. They have no idea what the heck you're talking about. They're going to be confused, you're going to be frustrated, and then you're going to think, fine, fuck it, I'll just do it myself. And that's not the way you want to do delegation in your business, is it? And that's why delegation fails for 99% of business owners. You just tell someone, hey, please do this, maybe give them an SOP, and then expect them to do the thing in the exact way that you want them to do it. But that's never going to work. And if you want your business to run without you, you need to do more than that. So now I'm going to give you my 5-step system for delegation that works no matter what your business is and makes your team completely independent. And then after, I'm going to show you how to use the system to make your business run without you. Right. So step 1 of the system works like this. And this is the part that almost everyone misses. And the best way to explain it is, I want you to think about the last time you had a project fall behind or a task get messed up. Why do you think that happened? Why did it mess up? Why was it delayed? Well, it's typically because of something super basic. Like I once worked with a guy called Joel who ran a 7-figure business, and on paper, he had everything he was supposed to have. He had a good business with good revenue and a genuinely good team. Yet there was always a few problems with delegations. Deadlines would get missed. Some people would just avoid decisions altogether. And basically everything somehow found its way back to him. Now, like most business owners, at first he assumed that maybe his team just needed to work harder. Maybe people weren't proactive enough. Maybe they just needed better tools and a better project management software. So he pushed more, checked in more, stepped in more, etc., etc. And the harder that he tried to fix it, the more the business depended on him. Now, when he came to me with the problem, we zoomed out and we asked a different question. If something breaks in this business, who does it actually belong to? And the answer was nobody, which was the entire source of his delegation problem. So once we made it clear what each person owned in his team, they were able to make decisions and stop missing deadlines, which meant delegation finally started working for him. So step 1 for making delegation work and to make sure things actually get done and that there's no confusion or finger pointing is ownership clarity. When you clearly define who is responsible for what, there's no ambiguity. There's no passing the blame saying, oh, that was Ross's job. When people know exactly what they need to do and why it matters, everything moves more smoothly and efficiently. And once you've got step 1 in place, you can move on to step 2, which is all about keeping people accountable so that the work you've delegated actually gets done to a high standard and keeps the business growing. Now, to make this simple, I want you to think of delegation essentially like a checklist, right? Now, if someone can check off that they've done what they're meant to do and that they can check off that it was done to a high standard, you can be happy with how that person and delegating to them is performing. But if someone either can't check off that the thing they're responsible for is done, or they can't check off that it's done to a high standard, well, that's not good, right? They're not doing it well, and we need to fix it. So how are you going to do that? Well, the simplest way is you quite simply have a conversation with them, figure out why they haven't done the thing or why it's not being done to the expected standard. Because if you don't do that, then you have a team member who isn't pulling their weight. They're actively holding the business back, and they also probably aren't enjoying their work. So that's exactly how you keep people accountable, okay? You use scorecards to track their inputs. So are they doing what they're responsible for? And their outputs, so the performance of their work. For example, if someone does sales for you, you might want to track, how many meetings they take or DMs they send, so their inputs, and how many sales they get, their output. If either of these are below the targets you set, you bring it up in the weekly meeting. Now, this can seem harsh because you're basically You're calling them out in front of everyone on your team, but it does two things. Firstly, it'll incentivize people to do their job well so they don't get called out in front of everybody, because nobody wants that. But it also helps you come up with solutions for their problems, because not only can you just brainstorm with them and your team, but if you have a sales rep who needs to improve and you have a sales rep who's doing great, you can get input from the sales rep doing great and how they're performing, what they do differently, that the other sales rep can then take on board to improve. At the end of the day, accountability is what keeps things on track. And without a way to measure the progress and hold people to their responsibilities, tasks can slip through the cracks and performance can drop, which obviously the business then suffers. So step 2 is introducing scorecards and regular reviews in weekly meetings. This way you create a system where your team knows what they're responsible for in terms of completing their tasks to a certain standard, which you help them reach. And that drives better results for the tasks that you've delegated to them. You then move on to step 3, which builds on what we've just set in place. But this time we're going to give the person a clear picture of what we expect the task you've delegated to them to look like, so that it's not only easier for them to do, but also so that you get asked less questions and they're more likely to perform at the level that you want them to. And to explain it, I want you to imagine that you're teaching a kid math again, right? Now, if you told the kid, hey, here's what you have to do. You have to do these 10 equations every day, and I want you to check off in this scorecard each time you do the questions so that we know that you're doing them, and then I want you to check off each one that you get right so that we can see how you're performing. That's great, right? They know what they have to do, and they're being held accountable for doing it and doing it to a good standard. But we're forgetting something pretty big here. They don't know how to do math. So their performance on that scorecard is going to be crap, and you'll be frustrated with them, but in reality, it's your fault for not telling them how you want the thing done. And that is exactly what happens in business all the time. Like, think about it. I am sure you delegated a task before the result was not what you either expected or wanted. You gave clear instructions, but the outcome, it wasn't the same as if you had done it yourself. Now, most entrepreneurs then go, fuck it, I'm the only person who can do anything, I will do it myself. And it's natural, right? But in reality, all you had to do to fix a problem was write out a list of steps which showed the kid how to do the equations. You then tell them to follow those steps, and anytime they ask you a question like, oh, what do I do when this is the case? You add that answer to that list of steps. When you don't have clear procedures in place like this, tasks can be completed in a variety of different ways, which you may not want. Like, I remember when I was in high school, I'm a bit of a nerd. I love math, but hence why I'm using that example. But I would actually learn a lot of it on YouTube. So the way I did it was different from the way my teacher wanted it done. And so my answers might have been right, but the output was different from what was expected. And the teacher would get pissed off at me, basically. But that is why in business, SOPs are so important. You're giving your expectations as to how you want the task done and what the output should look like, so that that person can follow those steps and know what to do. And then you update the SOPs with answers to questions you get asked, so that that question is solved forever, because you direct people to the SOP. Like, hey, if you have questions, always check the SOP first. The answer is likely there, and it will save you and me a ton of time. And if people don't use the SOPs, which is a common problem, you need consequences for that, because otherwise they'll never change their behavior. So don't help them. Do not answer their questions. If you know the answer is in the SOP, do not help them, because you're training them to rely on you, not the SOP. And if this means they miss a deadline, that's on them. You told them to check the SOP, they didn't do it. So there is a consequence to their action, which they will in turn learn from and start using the SOPs. So step 3 is to make SOPs for every task you delegate. This way, every task, no matter who does it, is completed to a minimum standard in the way you expect, and it ensures consistency and frees you from micromanaging every detail. So delegation is actually done to a high standard consistently. Then step 4 is actually where most business owners mess up, because it destroys all the work we did in steps 1 to 3 and guarantees delegation doesn't work. And that's because we often expect people, once they have an SOP, to just do the job perfectly. Like, there's no excuses now. It should be done better than I do it. But when it's not, or when you get bombarded with questions, we can feel frustrated with delegation and think that it's not working, but that's not true. It's bullshit. Because like a kid learning math, just because they can do 2 times 2 doesn't mean they can do 9 times 3 or 100 divided by 10. And so they might have a question, they might do it wrong. And it's not going to help them learn how to do math if you just get pissed off and decide to do the sum yourself, okay? And really, when someone does a task wrong or comes to you with a question, if you are a good leader, you do not get pissed off. You see it as an opportunity to help them grow and improve. And the way you do that is you train them. Now, training people can look massively different depending on the role. But a great universal method to help everybody improve and sort of train them, especially for the business to run itself, is the 1-3-1 rule. How this works is every time someone comes to you with a problem or a question, you ask them to come back to you when they have free solutions. Then when they come to you with free solutions, you ask them which they think we should do. If you agree with the one they choose, you tell them why you agree, and then you tell them to go implement the solution. If you don't agree, you tell them why, then you tell them your solution and why yours is better suited for this situation. Ask if they understand why you chose that solution, then get them to implement it. The idea is the next time they come to you with a problem or question, they already have free solutions, and the one they recommend is more likely to be the one that you would also recommend because you've educated them on how you make decisions and how you want things done. Then the next time, they'll just tell you, hey, we have this problem and I'm going to solve it by doing this. And eventually they just go, hey, we had this problem, but I already solved it by doing this. The 1-3-1 rule, so long as you stick to it, which is crucial, okay? You have to stick to it with no exceptions and educate with it. It will train your team to solve problems and make decisions themselves. This way, you don't have to do it for them. And then in terms of improving performance and work quality, it's really a matter of reviewing what they've done, why it's not up to the standard or performance that you want, then telling them where it could be improved, how to improve it, and why that improvement works, and then keeping them accountable through scorecards. So step 4 is all about training, and this will help you trust your team and improve both delegation and performance across the business, as you'll improve their ability to do the task and make decisions by themselves, so that over time you're needed less and less and the business runs itself more and more, which moves us on to step 5 of the system. And this is so incredibly simple, but it can be the part that can wreck your delegation if you do not do it, right? Because look, your team thinks they are flat out busy, and I get that as a business owner. It seems ridiculous, right? Because they have so little to do compared to us, right? But they think that is true. They think that they're pedal to the metal, foot to the floor. They think they're sucking diesel, which is a Northern Irish term. So apologies if you don't understand it, but sucking diesel. And so if you implement steps 1 to 4, they're going to know what to do, how to do it, etc., etc. But they'll still have one major problem. They'll be sitting there thinking, when on earth am I going to find the time to do this? And naturally, they'll say to themselves, the old classic, I'll figure it out, which we all know means they won't. So step 5 is for you to help them integrate their responsibilities into their schedule. So if they have to do something every day, you help them find the time to do it every day. This way, it's embedded in their calendar and they can't say, oh, I didn't have time to do this, because it's bullshit. You help them find the time. This way, the things you delegate actually get done. Essentially, you just sit down with them and be like, okay, you have to do this every day. When are your days? Are you going to do this? Is it going to be every day at 5 p.m., every day at 9 a.m., etc.? Okay. This way, you carve out the time predetermined to do that work, and they don't have an excuse for not having the time. Now, here's the magic of this system. You can use this to completely remove yourself from the day-to-day and of your business, and your business can run itself. All you need to do is take all the tasks you do that are required for the business to run, then delegate them by explaining the new responsibility to the person you're delegating to, keep them accountable, integrate it into their schedule, give them SOPs and train them if needed over a few weeks or months. Or of course, if you have managers in your business, your managers might be able to do all of this for you. Either way, do this for all the tasks you do in the day-to-day, and all of a sudden, your business runs without you and you're free to focus on what matters for scaling. But here's the thing, right? A delegation system is only one small part of systemizing a business. So if you want to see how to systemize your entire business in just 12 weeks, click the video on screen now and I'll show you how.